Well, hello and welcome into another edition of 8Sports Nightcap here on WRICNow.com, on our Facebook page, on the WRC Plus app, however you see our podcast here on the WRC Now network. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Nightcap. If you're not tuned into a show before, this is normally more like an interview show where I sit down with different, personalities, coaches, reporters to kind of discuss what's going on in the world of Richmond athletics and the scheme of the region, as well as Virginia Tech and UVA. And we also here on the Nightcap recap what's been going on around this state. And with it being 4 games into the college football season, I thought it was kind of the perfect time to sit down, and talk a little ball, kind of recap what's been going on, because, the 2 Power 4 teams in our state, Virginia and Virginia Tech, on opposite ends of the spectrum, and both in very interesting situations this week in terms of what to expect from both the Hokies and the Hoos as ACC play is officially underway for both Tony Elliott and now Phil Montgomery. Talking about those Virginia Tech Hokies, obviously they lost to Old Dominion, started 0-3, the worst start for the Virginia Tech program since Frank Beamer's first year in Blacksburg, and they were kind of stuck with their backs against the wall, and they were kind of forced to fire head coach Brent Pry in his 4th season at the helm. And Virginia Tech now sits in a situation where they need to hire a new head coach. And so while that is taking place, they had to, of course, then hire an interim head coach, and that's where we will pick up here on the Nightcap. I was out in Blacksburg this past week for the game. Really impressed with the crowd in Blacksburg. Obviously I'm an alumni. I've been to a lot of games. And I was expecting the crowd not to be great. But as you can see, to start the game, that top left part of the end zone on what I believe to be the east stands was the only empty part at the start of the game. Obviously, as the game went on, after halftime and everything else, things started to change. People started to trickle out. But for the most part, I was pretty impressed with the Hokie faithful, and for them to still come out and support a team that was 0-3 and off to one of the program's worst ever starts. And the team flew around. I mean, the defense got a big stop early, and then Kyron Drones and the Hokies kind of drove down the field. They went for it on a 4th down and didn't get it out of the start on 4th and goal. But then when the next time they got the ball back, they easily drove down the field again. I thought Kyron Drones looked really good in this game. A lot of checkdowns, and I've seen a lot of people kind of complain about that. But for the most part, the Hokies did what they needed to do. They didn't really turn the ball over. They forced a couple of turnovers, and it was exactly the answer to the situation that they had been put in, that I think that you'd want to see from any team. Philip Montgomery is an interesting situation because, he has no confirmed job for next season. He's kind of coaching for his job. If he wins out, why wouldn't they hire him to be the next head coach of Virginia Tech? So it's a situation that's different, not only for the players going to a new school, committing to a college, transferring into a school and losing your coach after 3 games, especially when the expectations were, I don't want to say too high, but I think a lot of people thought the Hokies could win 7, 8 games. Obviously, we now know that's probably not a possibility. But now the expectations are different for Tech. And I think the players are there and they want to put their hearts on the line and play 8 more games of football. When they entered this game against Wofford, they still had 9 games to play. The Tech hasn't even played an ACC game yet. And they lost their head coach. So they've been put in a really tough situation. And I think they answered the call. Of course, they were playing against a Wofford team that had not won yet. A Wofford team that lost to the University of Richmond. And they made quick work of them. They looked good on offense. They looked good on defense. And they were able to force some turnovers. And I think the Hokies needed just a little bit of confidence, a little bit of an answer that they could score points, that they could get stopped, that they could force turnovers. And we saw that. But more importantly, we saw the players get together and really impress, right? We saw the players get together and cheer for each other and have each other's back. And that's something we hadn't seen all season. And after the game, I was able to, meet up with Kelvin Gilliam, obviously a Highland Springs High School alum. He's a Richmond guy. Coming from Lauren Johnson, who was a Virginia Tech guy, got recruited early out of high school, visited Tech. I mean, this guy's got Virginia Tech in his blood, and we were able to talk with him after the game, and he had a really, really impactful statement about what it's been like in Blacksburg since they lost their head coach, and it's a really interesting interview with him, and we'll play it for you right now. He talked about what happened the night on Sunday night when they found out that head coach Brent Pry was fired, what their answer was to that traumatic news for any young man.
Still not satisfied. That's the most thing I told him. I said, we're not partying like it's 1999 because, I mean, I wanted to party 3 weeks ago. So that's the whole thing about this team. So glad we got this win. So glad we got our confidence back. So now we're just going to get back to work and take it from here. My message to the team, I mean, we was in this exact same room, and one of the things I did, I opened up the door. I said, if you want to leave, leave, because whatever we do, we need guys that are bought in and stuff. And me personally, I'm not forcing nobody to stick around if they don't want to be here, because maybe that's one of our issues that we had the last 3 guys, 1 foot in, 1 foot out. So the whole thing about it is now, who wants to be here? Let's go to work. I got up and I said, who wants to be here and who doesn't? And as you can see, I mean, we had 2 guys leave because, I mean, when I look at it, it's like the brotherhood of it and stuff. So, I mean, you know, we do all this brotherhood, all this stuff. When then times get tough, you know, what do you do at the same point? And I like you going back to your question, how do you approach the week? You approach the week by saying, okay, we're 0-3, your coach got fired. Or do you say, we're 0-3, let's go, your coach just got fired, you know, it's on us. And one thing I told them guys is that Coach Pryor didn't take a snap of it. You know, he's just the head coach. He's the one that get the blame. So, you know, that's one of the things about it is that, you know, the players play, the coaches coach. And so I really felt like it's on us, the reason why that's.
Yeah, so there you go. That was former Highland Springs High School Springer Kelvin Gilliam. Strong words, right? It sounds like the Hokie players are kind of still bought in. You know, obviously they know that the expectations for the end of the year are probably a little different than they were when they went down to Georgia to play South Carolina at the Mercedes-Benz Center. But now they have a situation of, you know, they're playing for themselves, they're playing for each other, and now they have a really big task as they hit the road for NC State. The Wolfpack this year have been pretty good. They did lose to in-state rival Duke, but I think that the Duke Blue Devils are a talented team this year, so I don't think you can, you know, fault them too much for the fact that they've lost to the Blue Devils. Let's see if I can't bring up our browser here. Yeah, there we go. So they started the year out playing the same team they lost to in the Military Bowl, their biggest, or one of their biggest rivals in East Carolina. Took them down by 1 touchdown, 17-24. Obviously, they beat UVA, a team that I think we all think is pretty good, 35-31. Took care of business against Wake Forest, and then lost to Duke 45-33 last week. I think when you look at this schedule and what they've done, I think it's clear that you can, you know, put up some points on the Wolfpack. It'll be interesting to see what Virginia Tech does when they go down there. They're not all that banged up. They have a couple of offensive linemen out, but I think the main thing for that team is that, you know, they're regrouping in terms of getting used to a new practice schedule. Head coach Philip Montgomery has mentioned, I should say interim head coach, has mentioned that they're changing a couple of things at practice, and it'll be interesting to see how they compete against NC State. I think we'll learn a lot this upcoming Saturday at 7 o'clock under the lights in Raleigh about how many wins Virginia Tech could possibly get this year. Was that Wofford win the only one they can manage this year, or will they be a more competitive team down the stretch? That's something that we're just going to have to find out here. And earlier this week, the interim head coach Philip Montgomery kind of talked about that win and how important it was for his team to, you know, get some confidence after especially the start that they had. And here is head coach Philip Montgomery at the press conference earlier this week.
With a lot of passion, a lot of emotion. I thought we flew around defensively to the football. I thought we executed well offensively, got more balance in what we wanted to do. I thought we were efficient in that way. And so I'm very thankful and I'm very proud of those guys, all of them in that locker room, all of those guys on the coaching staff through a tough week. Thought number one, you know, our fans were great. They came out, they supported. I asked them, please come and support and show that passion that you have for this university, for the football team. I thought our guys fed off of that, so I'm very thankful for them for coming out and doing that. We're gonna need you to continue to do that throughout the year. As we look forward, obviously we're on the road this week. We've got a tough test, starting conference play right here. I know we got to get back to work. For us, it's all about putting our focus on ourselves, continuing to grow, continue to get better. We got to have a great week of work. I'm excited to get on the practice field with them today, and looking forward to our meetings. We got to have the exceptional meetings. We got to have a great practice tempo, and we got to be locked in because we know NC State is a very, very talented team, and they've got a lot of weapons. We got to do a good job defensively of eliminating some of their explosive plays, and then offensively, we got to sustain drives. We got to go get touchdowns, find some explosive plays on our side of it, give our guys an opportunity to go do that, and looking forward to the.
Yeah, so there you go. That was interim head coach Philip Montgomery on the Hokies matchup against NC State. Turning the page now to UVA. Look out, man. UVA could have a good football team. Tony Elliott has only improved every year that he's been there. After last season, you kind of started to hear some rumblings that he could be on the hot seat. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact he didn't get to that 6 wins mark. But UVA off to another good start. This kind of same thing happened last year, though. Virginia got off to a good start a year ago. And then really struggled down the stretch. And then here they are again, off to a pretty good start. Took care of a Stanford Cardinal team that's probably one of the worst in the ACC. So maybe don't read too much into the final score. But anytime you beat somebody 48-20 is pretty good, especially in front of your home fans. And I think what kind of took everyone, I don't know if by surprise is the right word, but impressed everyone, had to have been Chandler Morris's play. 380 yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and then he rushed for another score on 5 rushes for 19 yards. This is a game where early on it was kind of back and forth, right? UVA went right down the field, got on the scoreboard, Stanford answered, and then it was the Trell Harris show. He would finish with 3 touchdowns on the day, 145 yards on just 4 receptions. So pretty impressive day from Trell Harris, and then, of course, a really impressive day from Chandler Morris. And what was, I think, a staple win for UVA. Obviously, this season, they took care of Coastal Carolina at home, went head-to-head with that NC State team we were just talking about, took care of business against William & Mary, and then obviously were able to take down a Stanford team with ease. This matchup, though, this Friday night is going to be the season for UVA. If you look at the rest of their schedule, Louisville's a pretty good football team. I think Virginia will be favored against UNC, against Washington State. California just got embarrassed by San Diego State. They'll probably be favored in that one. I think UVA will be favored against Wake Forest, and then tough game against Duke, and then obviously the Commonwealth Cup matchup against Virginia at the end of the year. Virginia could have a really successful football season. We'll find out just how good they are on this Friday night, though. And one of the big talking points this Friday is what kind of atmosphere will it be at Scott Stadium? Going into last week's game versus Stanford, 3-1 on the year, or rather 2-1 on the year, there wasn't a great crowd. There was some different folks that were pointing out the fact that, they're off to a 2-1 start. The team looks really good, and there wasn't, great support from the locals and the students. And it'll be interesting to see if on Friday night, under the lights, a primetime matchup on ESPN, I believe. Let's double check that. Yeah, on ESPN, a big brand, a top 10 team like Florida State coming to town. I think that's gonna impress the students and the Charlottesville natives and alumni to come back and support the team. This is one of their best starts in recent memory, and it'll be cool to see if Scott Stadium can fill out. Coach Elliott was asked about that point, that they didn't have great fan support against Stanford or, obviously William & Mary or Coastal. Would it be different this Friday night under the lights against the top 10 team in Florida State? This is what he had to say to that.
Every week, I'm dreaming and hoping for a full stadium, a capacity stadium, packed, loud, and aggressive, putting pressure on opposing teams. I'm hopeful this week that we'll have. So every time I run out the tunnel, man, I'm expecting to see a full stadium. And I understand we got to do our part, and we're working towards it. But I anticipate there'll be a good crowd. But at the end of the day, we can't focus on that. We got to focus on the product that we put on the field. And I think the guys have done a really good job of just having a workman-like mentality and showing up and going to work regardless of how many people are in the stands. But man, I'm dreaming, and I think what we want in the end, it's going to take all of us. It's going to take the relationships, and everybody doing their part, and a big part of helping a football team, maintain its edge and ability to perform at a high level is knowing that you're running out to.
As for the Florida State Seminoles, they are ranked 8th in the country for a reason. Looking at their schedule here so far this season, obviously started the year out with the win over Kalen DeBoer and the Alabama Crimson Tide, 31-17. Had no issue with East Texas A&M or Kent State, so they really haven't seen any real competition since that opening night matchup against Alabama that kind of shocked the college football world, let everybody know that Mike Norvell and the Seminoles are back. And this could be a look-ahead game for Florida State as well. The big matchup everyone's been excited about, Miami and Florida State on October 4th. And then their other matchup against Clemson later in this year. It's a lot of interesting lore around this game as well. Chandler Morris, obviously the quarterback for UVA. His dad was a coach a long time at the FBS level, and actually coached with the head coach of Florida State, Mike Norvell. And he talked about their relationship, of course, Mike Norvell's relationship with Chandler Morris back when he was a kid. And it led to some pretty interesting discussion this week when previewing this matchup. Check it out.
I've known Chandler since he was really young. Chad, his dad and I, I worked under his dad, there at Tulsa. And so Chandler, I can't remember exactly how old he was, but, seeing him grow and just knowing his story, watching him through high school and obviously his collegiate career. And, he's playing with such confidence right now. And, he's, the things that he's been able to do, his offensive line's done a great job in giving him time. But even if there's, somebody's gotten close to pressuring them, they haven't been able to finish on him. And because he's been able to jump out, spin out of, keep plays alive. And, he's going to have his eyes down the field. He can run, and he can make things happen. He's a great playmaker. So, he presents a great challenge for us. And, he's, you're happy to see, people that when they're young and when you watch their journey, you're happy to see them, have success. I just don't want.
Turning our attention now to the Richmond Spiders, I should mention, again, Florida State, UVA, Friday night, 7 o'clock. It's not on Saturday. We'll try to get highlights to you. It's going to be difficult, though, with the blitz taking place on Friday night as well. All right, speaking now a little Spiders football. They were back at home finally for their home opener against VMI, and what was just a very difficult game to kind of deal with if you were a spectator or media covering the game, because it got started and then it rained, and then they pushed the game back to start at this time, and then the second they were ready to play, lightning happened, and it pushed the game back again. Second they were ready to play, lightning happened, and it was what was a game that kicked off at what I think was 1 o'clock or 2, did not finish up until 9:30 or so. But it was a big victory for the Richmond Spiders, finally back at home and able to have some success finally as well. They started their season at Lehigh, lost 21-14. Lehigh, I think, is a really good team this year at the FCS level. They then beat Wofford 14-10 on the road, went down to UNC to play Bill Belichick and the Tar Heels. They lost that one 41-6. So the offense hadn't done great, right? They scored 14, then 6. They only gotten into the end zone 4 times in 3 games, and they were finally able to get the offense going against VMI and get a big 38-14 win over the Keydets. Kyle Wickersham started things out under center for Richmond, threw for 166, 2 scores, and Jamal Brown led things rushing with 153 yards on the ground. They were able to hold VMI to just 2 touchdowns. Isaiah Dawson, he showed out as well, catching 2 touchdowns for just under 100 yards. And it was a great win, much needed win for Richmond. And now they return home. They return home to take on Howard this Saturday at 2 o'clock. We, of course, will be on the sidelines for that one. Madeline will have you covered with all the highlights this upcoming weekend. But today, or I should say on Wednesday, when speaking with head coach Russ Huseman, we asked him about, he was asked about what it was like to get that win, a much needed win, a confidence building win for Richmond after they went on the road and lost 41-6 to UNC. And this is what the head coach had to say.
Really good win for us. You know, coming in, we felt like VMI had a good team. I mean, they've got good players. Danny's done a really nice job of recruiting. Now, they're a young team, kind of just like us, but they are young. They lost some guys to the portal just like we did, but felt like they were well coached. And, you know, to come out, you know, to win like that, I think it was a huge boost, especially offensively for our offensive guys, to know that, hey, we can score points, we can make people miss, we can get our backs in space, our wideouts in space, and make something happen. So it was a good day for us offensively, no question.
The Richmond Spiders have some confidence now after taking down the Keydets. They'll now take on the Howard Bison at 2 o'clock on Saturday. After that, they'll take on Bucknell. The only thing that you might have saw me referencing, but I didn't turn the mic on for, was the fact that they were at Lehigh, lost 21-14. Lehigh has been 4-0 since. And so Richmond's in a good spot. They've kind of been notorious for starting slow over the past few years and then kind of bouncing back with a good end to the season. I kind of foresee that happening with the Spiders again. And that's essentially the recap of everything that was happening when my mic was off. So apologies for that one. You know, a little rusty on this recap show. It's been a lot of interviews here, and we're going to get back to the interviews here on the Nightcap soon, but I kind of wanted to get on here, just kind of talk some ball with you guys, because Virginia Tech and Virginia at very different stages of their season and their shelf life. UVA looks really good. It'll be interesting to see if they can compete with Florida State on Friday. Virginia Tech kind of has a clean slate now. They'll be looking for a new head coach, and it sounds like a GM as well, and there's supposed to be money going into the program. There's going to be a lot of news coming out about the Hokies, despite the fact that it's probably going to be a tough season for Virginia Tech. But that's going to wrap things up here on the Nightcap. Thanks very much for stopping by. We'll see you next week here on WRCNow.com. Good night, everybody. We'll see you next week.